On June 8, 1967, in Katowice, Poland, the residents of an apartment building in the city center, after multiple discussions, finally decided to call the police. Because, for several consecutive weeks, a smell that they could not accurately describe but instinctively felt uneasy had been coming from an apartment on the fourth floor and seriously affected their lives. Initially, they thought the smell was a dead rat or a blocked drain. However, with the arrival of summer, the smell became more and more unpleasant. The person who lived there was a 34-year-old electrician named Bogdan Arnold, who had been missing for several weeks. So the residents suspected that the smell was most likely caused by Arnold having died in the apartment, and his body has not yet been removed. Later, several police officers arrived at the scene, but because the apartment door was locked, they called the fire department for help. Then, after discussing what to do, they decided to rappel down from the top floor, break the window to get inside, and then open the door from within. Before the operation began, the firefighter put on a gas mask because the smell had already become strong enough to make people loss of consciousness. After getting inside, the firefighter saw something he would never forget for the rest of his life. The apartment was littered with badly decomposed human remains. Some of the remains were stuffed in a wooden box, some were in a bathtub, and some were in a large pot. At first, the scene was so messy that the police could not even tell how many victims there were. It was only after a detailed examination by the Forensic Medicine Institute that they confirmed there were remains of 4 women. Since Arnold's body was not among the dead, the police immediately identified him as the murderer. While they were collecting evidence in the apartment, they also started a large search for him. However, 6 days later, Arnold himself voluntarily appeared at the police station. During the first interrogation, without hesitation, he confessed to all 4 murders. He even gave far more details than the police had expected, including things they had not even asked about. Arnold's victims were all sex workers. The reason he chose them was both because they were easy to get close to and because their missing would not attract anyone's attention. His first murder took place on October 12, 1966, nearly 8 months before the residents called the police. That evening, Arnold met a 30-year-old woman, Maria, a sex worker, at a local bar. There, Arnold bought Maria several bottles of beer and vodka, and after chatting for a while, the two of them returned to Arnold's apartment. Once they got there, Arnold wanted to have sex, but Maria made it clear that she would only have sex for money. In Arnold's eyes, her words were an insult. During the interrogation, Arnold told the officers, "I thought she came with me because of love, not for money." When he heard Maria's demand, he flew into a rage. He beat her, took out a mason's hammer, and struck her on the head again and again until she was dead. After killing Maria, Arnold did not immediately dispose of her body. Instead, he left the apartment and went out drinking for 3 days. During the interrogation, Arnold explained that at the time he was very confused and did not know what to do. But when he came back to the apartment, a neighbor complained to him about the smell, which made him realize he had to do something. So he dragged Maria's body into the bathroom and cut it up, chopped her internal organs into small pieces and flushed them down the drain, and put her head in a large pot and boiled it. In the end, he soaked her arms, legs, and torso in chlorine water and sealed them in a wooden box. 5 months later, on March 12, 1967, Arnold met his second victim at a bar. She was a sex worker, around 40 years old. She never had a name because her identity was never confirmed. Arnold brought her back to his apartment in the same way as before. In his confession, he said that she had found Maria's remains. To stop his crimes from being discovered, he raped her, beat her, and then killed her. The way he dismembered her body was the same as the first time. He removed her internal organs and flushed them down the drain and sealed her arms, legs, and torso in a wooden box. In the following 2 months, Arnold killed 2 more women. On April 21st, he killed Stefania, a 35-year-old sex worker with an intellectual disability, and on May 22nd, he killed Helga, a 30-year-old sex worker who also had an intellectual disability. These 2 women suffered even worse abuse than the first 2 victims. Arnold sexually abused them and tortured them for hours. He whipped them with a belt, used a cable to give them electric shocks on their legs, and forced them to kneel and beg before killing them. 8 months, he killed 4 victims. During those months, he lived with their remains, never showed any signs of panic. But when he committed the final murder, the weather had already turned warmer. The remains decomposed faster than he could control. He could no longer stand the smell coming from the corpses. After his crimes were exposed, Arnold hid for several days in a coal pile near a zinc factory and in an abandoned warehouse. During this time, he tried to hang himself with a rope, but it broke. He survived. In the end, on June 14th, he chose to turn himself in. In addition to the 4 murders, Arnold also voluntarily confessed to 1 attempted murder. He had once tried to poison his 3rd wife with rat poison, but it did not work. He told the interrogators that his only regret was not being able to kill his ex-wife. As the investigation went deeper, investigators looked into Arnold's background and the reasons behind his crimes. He was born on February 17, 1933, in Katowice, Poland. At 16, he moved with his family to Silesia and went to a local vocational school to learn electrical skills. At 17, he married a woman named Jadwiga. That marriage lasted 7 years. After that, he had 2 more marriages and 1 relationship where he lived with a partner but did not marry. In his testimony, Arnold said that the pain of being abandoned by his partners caused his hatred for all women, which was why he killed those women. However, his ex-wives and his former partner told a different story. Arnold's 3rd wife said that the real reason they all left him was his long-term drinking and abuse. In the trial that followed, she described how Arnold would tie her hands and feet with wire, force a vodka bottle into her genitals, and could only get sexual satisfaction after completely humiliating her. His former partner Cecilia said that Arnold had raped her 8 times in one night when he was drunk. He also made her bite his back and chest. Long-term drinking made his aggression and antisocial tendencies worse, and Maria's death was a turning point. This impulsive killing made him discover that taking someone's life could give him an intense sense of control that he had never felt before. From that point on, he changed. He was no longer just acting out of anger. He began to plan everything carefully. He chose his targets in bars, lured them back to his apartment, and carried out torture lasting several hours or several days, including electrocution, beating, and forced kneeling. On March 4, 1968, Arnold's trial began at the Katowice Provincial Court. During the trial, the prosecution presented forensic reports, crime scene photos, Arnold's confession, and a demonstration in which he reenacted the murders using mannequins and tools from the scene. After 6 days of trial, on March 9th, the court sentenced Arnold to death by hanging. The Polish Supreme Court rejected his appeal, and the State Council denied his request for a pardon. During the trial, psychiatrists evaluated Arnold. Their conclusion was that he suffered from severe psychological problems, but he was fully aware of what he was doing when he committed the crimes and understood the nature and consequences of his actions. On December 16th, Arnold was executed by hanging. When asked if he had any last request, he only asked for a cigarette, and after smoking it, he was hanged. Later, it was discovered that Arnold's crimes could have been stopped earlier, but nobody had taken it seriously. In October 1966, more than 10 days after Maria was killed, Arnold lured another sex worker named Ludmila. He beat her, raped her, and tried to strangle her, but she survived and escaped from the apartment. She ran downstairs in torn clothes, begging neighbors and the police for help. She told them what had happened to her and gave them Arnold's name and address. But the police did nothing. Because she was a sex worker, no one believed her story. They did not open a case, did not summon Arnold, and did not even make a formal record of what she said. Arnold's neighbors were not completely unaware of the strange things going on either. A neighbor who lived downstairs from him later said in court that she had smelled something in the hallway that reminded her of rotting corpses during the war. She recognized the smell, but she did not call the police. Instead, she went to Arnold and told him to deal with it. Arnold was not a clever criminal. His methods were full of holes. The smell of the corpses was strong enough to be noticed throughout the whole building. A victim had escaped and reported him to the police. He did not move, did not clean up the scene, and did not run away. But These mistakes never led to his capture. The neighbor who noticed the smell only told him to deal with it, and the police who received the report did not believe what a sex worker said.